across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Okay, right. Come on, let's introduce Andrew Eborn, who's our guest. How are you?
I'm amazing. Lovely to see you. Brand new year. Happy New Year. I think you can keep saying that till July, can't you?
Yeah, just keep going. Just do it all year.
Yeah, 2025.
Why not, man? So what's going on? What did you do in New Year?
Well, I was here. I did the James Whale Christmas show, which is fantastic.
That's right, yeah.
With you.
Well, we recorded that 6 months ago.
No, but don't tell people.
Oh, yeah, no, it's all about
television. I was back with Andre on what was it, Boxing Day.
You were?
And then I did time. I did Times Radio on Christmas Eve. So it's all been a Talk News UK glorious festivities. That's what I had.
Fantastic.
Indeed. Okay, I want to ask you a question.
Yes.
It's a bit of breaking news tonight. Nigel Farage has said that whilst he welcomes Tommy Robinson's support because he's a hero, he wouldn't let him into the party, right or wrong?
Well, I think he's missing a real opportunity because Elon Musk has been advocating...
Oh, God, here we go. No. Right, we're not doing it.
What?
Elon Musk is on his show regularly.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Every day, absolutely, it is good. But I won't mention that because Ash has mentioned... No, the reality is this. He's made a mistake. Tommy Robinson is basically in horrendous conditions in jail as a result of breaching a court order.
A civil offence.
It was a civil offence. And so what happened, it was about contempt of court because they said you mustn't show this particular programme, silenced and so on and so forth, but because of the Defamation Action and so on and so forth. He did. He broadcast it. It's still available for people to see. Elon's been retweeting links to it and everything else. Do I think it's wrong? Absolutely, because he's missing the golden opportunity to say, look, it's about freedom of speech. There's certain things that you need to talk about, and there's lots of supporters there. There are real issues that we're being pushed under the carpet at the moment because people are not addressing them.
So let me tell you my view on Tommy Robinson and others.
Yes.
So first of all, is he a mortgage fraudster? Well, he was convicted of it, but funnily enough, I'm not getting financial advice off him, so I'm not overly worried about that. My issue is this. I think in any political debate, you've got to be open.
Yes.
I think also what you've got to do, it's always helpful to have somebody who can effectively codify the concerns of a particular group, express it, bring them together, because that is the starting point for dealing with the problems. You've got a spokesman, he commands support, he understands what the issue is. So I think that in reality, someone like Tommy Robinson is a useful thing for the establishment to have, because suddenly it's not just ill-focused grumbles as an actual complaint.
No, you absolutely, and you need to... The problem is this, and it's two extremes, isn't it? It's one turning around and say, absolutely, we have the laws in this country, you need to comply with those. So he was made an example of.
Yes.
And it's exactly... And
is he a political prisoner?
You would turn around, and I talk about sentencing all of the time. Why do people do it? There are three reasons that people sentence. One is the punishment for the crime.
Yes.
The other is to deter others. And the third is rehabilitation, try and rectify his...
But they're not trying to rehabilitate him, or they're just trying to deter others.
That's what the Sentencing Council has to do, and they try and look at those other things. The problem
but it's a civil offence. Well, it's not rehabilitatable.
Well, this is the thing. Say, is he then going to comply with the law? Because the court order said you mustn't do is contempt of court. But the reality is this. The other extreme is where you sweep all these really important issues under the carpet. And that's the thing I've got a real problem with, and Tommy and others work on that sort of basis.
My issue is, so I worry about police harassment, and I worry about this, which is every single week, or virtually every week, the Bedfordshire Police was raiding Tommy Robinson's house to find a reason to put him in prison. At the same time as they were going on and on and on about Anjam Chowdhury's human rights, who also lived in Luton. And you were talking about somebody who was later convicted of being actual terrorist. Now, look, no sensible person goes to the United States of America with their friend's passport. I mean, it's just an utterly stupid thing to do. Similarly, the mortgage fraud thing, okay, I get all that. But you know, the one question that the establishment never seems to ask is this bloke right? And I would argue with you, Andrew, that there are two levels of what is right.
Okay.
There are two different things. So there are things that are correct and symptomatic, and there are things that are correct and not symptomatic, if you like. So Tommy Robinson turns around and says, right, okay, well, in my local school, there is segregated playgrounds, that interracial marriages are effectively banned by thugs, child marriage is allowed, grooming is effectively legal if you're from the Muslim community, etc., etc. So you can say, okay, first point is that true?
Yeah.
But secondly, is that a wider problem? Because he's also from the part of the UK that has had the biggest amount of Pakistani immigration ever. But nobody seems to ask that. So I'm perfectly happy with saying, look, he is right, but it's an anomaly. You know, Luton's not like that. Sorry, Luton's like that, but the rest of the country isn't. Or he's completely right, and it is happening in other places, or he's talking nonsense.
It is happening in other places.
But what we actually do is go, you can't say that.
Yes. No, and that's the problem. We're living in a culture of fear.
Yes.
And as a result of it, you get these labels. I'm always against labels. You're labelled as a racist or Islamophobic or whatever. And that's the way you're dismissing legitimate concerns.
Well, now they actually put you in prison now as well. They've added that on the authoritarian government. Absolutely.
And they talk about fundamental rights of freedom of speech and freedom of thinking and so on and so forth. We can't do that. We get put in jail. Exactly. And that's the concern. We need to shine a spotlight on these horrendous situations.
How worried are you? Can I ask you? So, I mean, you're I was about to say a funny barrister, but you principally act as a legal advisor rather than going into court every 5 minutes.
I deal with intellectual property.
Yes.
I broker rights. Exactly. It's a different area too. So, but as a baby barrister,
you've got the wig.
I've got the look.
Yeah.
It's never left his hair.
It's never left my hair.
You've got the wig and everything, but you're not regularly seen in court. No. But I want to ask you this question, which I think is a really important question. Are you, as a lawyer, presumably, at least to an extent, worships the law, because it's something that is your life's work, along with plenty of other people's life's work. Do you worry the way the law is being used against the public? I think it was Hayek who continually said that what you need is the law ought to reflect the public will.
Well, the thing is this, Andre, is the law does already reflect it. It's about the implementation, how people are enforcing what the legal rights are. My biggest concern, it's a huge concern, is that people are being silenced.
Yes.
And as people are living in there, I know many journalists who are so concerned about travelling. I did a show, I still do a show called The Muckbreakers. We talk about all sorts of travelling issues, but we make sure that we unpack it. So as you say, let's shine a spotlight on it. We look at our only mistress, if you like, is the truth. All I want to try and get to is a forum where we can discuss these things logically. And as you sort of tell them, there are abhorrent things which are happening which need to be called out. We talk about these grooming gangs, which are basically rape torture gangs happening.
I'll tell you what we'll do. Why don't we leave you there for a second? Let's go to the break, and then let's do the grooming gangs things properly, because no doubt as a lawyer you've got loads of ideas on it. Back in a moment. Tell you what we'll do, let's talk very quickly about this situation with the NHS, where, according to today's Telegraph, illegal immigrants are skipping NHS queues and getting preferential treatment.
It's extraordinary, isn't it? It's called the 987 Inclusion Health, where basically undocumented migrants, homeless and drug addicts go to the top of the queue. So you might be waiting in A&E for more than 4 hours. More than 45,000 patients were delayed by longer than 12 hours, they said. But if you fit within undocumented migrants, homeless or drug addict category, then you'll be seen with about 15 minutes. You are prioritised.
And also, of course, remember the story, Jess Phillips. Do you remember? She went to A&E and she said, oh, I've just got preferential treatment because they knew I'd voted for a ceasefire in Gaza.
That was outrageous.
And that's outrageous. She should actually name the doctor and he should be appearing before the...
Absolutely. In the same way as justice should be blind, so should the NHS. We need to deal with that sort of side.
There's a lot of anti-Semitism. You know, I've heard a lot of stories. It's actually documented stories of people who are Jewish being really treated badly, sitting on the floor, being treated like...
I think everybody needs to be treated the same, and it's abhorrent that it's not.
Well, it's illegal and against the Hippocratic Oath.
It's this well-meaning thing, once again, where, you know, the people that pay the taxes, I mean, we're the idiots, aren't we? And I keep getting told off by the management for calling the viewers and listeners idiots, but I think we are all idiots, because we're the ones that pay the bills.
You don't mean they're idiots, because you mean they're very intelligent, which
no, he genuinely doesn't like them.
I love our audience, it's brilliant. But you're right to draw the point, is that we are spending a huge amount...
We're muggins.
Well, if we don't call it out, and we call it out, and our audience call it out, and that's what I love about our audience. What we're going to do is absolutely shine a spotlight on this. We need to, if somebody needs to be, there's a system, isn't there? You need to prioritise who needs to be seen first, not because they fit within a category, but because their illness requires it.
But nowadays, people are judged for the colour of their skin, not the colour.
I like the colour of their sin.
The contents of their character.
No, you're absolutely right. And
I didn't grow. I would argue that race is the number one political issue
And people are
in
so
Britain
scared.
today. But it wasn't. It's a new thing. And I'll tell you, people go on about the United States of America.
Yeah.
This racial intolerance, this racial pressure, this lack of integration is an import from the United States of America.
It is so important.
It's projected onto us.
No, you're absolutely right. It's so important that we address this, because actually we need to call it out, because it's not, every time you discriminate somebody, it's not because of race, gender, sex, ideology. It should be going back to a meritocracy in the same way as you apply for the NHS. Who needs to get in there first? Make sure they get prioritised, not because you tick a box.
That's the same in society, isn't it? I mean, ever since they brought in the identity politics, it's caused racism. I know Douglas Murray was talking about how gay people have basically had freedoms, but then they brought in all this LGB, LT and tomato in, and then now gay people are, again, you know, people are going, oh, I've had enough of all it, and they're being tarred with the same brush.
It backfires.
And it's the same with the racism, exactly. It makes people racist.
It makes people more prejudiced against that sort of stuff.
We were sorted 30 years ago in Britain. We didn't have
it's amazing that I will have been born in a non-racist country and I will die in a racist country.
And it's driving it. So you're right, we should treat everybody equally to the extent they deserve it, make sure we have a meritocracy, but it is crippling society having to deal with this, and it's right that we call it out, and people are too scared in the media to call it out, but we will.
Absolutely. Grooming gangs up next.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app.
Yes, this is Talk, and let's go on to the grooming gangs. Nigel Farage made a speech tonight in front of the Reform faithful in which he pledged action on grooming gangs should he become Prime Minister. Andrew, look, the whole thing's a disgrace.
Well, absolutely. Hillsborough, Windrush, Grenfell, all of these have been appalling national scandals. The grooming gangs, and that's a euphemism because they are rape torture gangs.
Child
read some of the reports coming out of the courts at the moment, they're absolutely appalling. And there's two things here. Firstly, this has been going on for a long time and has been pushed under the carpet. We need to address it, and we need to work out why and who's been silencing the people on that sort of basis. The other thing we need to do is to make sure that action is taken. So it's no good just saying this has been highlighted. Elon has been tweeting about this, saying it's appalling. Jess Phillips rejected Oldham Council's calls for a government-led inquiry.
And she's the Minister for Women and Girls' Welfare.
For safeguarding.
Safety.
What on earth is that about? She should come on this programme now and tell us why Jess thinks that's the right thing to do.
You know what I think it is? Because she only just won her seat, and second was one of these Islamist, people running against. So she's under the cosh if she loses.
And this is the theme, and so important. The theme that we keep going back to is that we must never be silenced to call out the wrongs of this world.
Well, these are the most vulnerable people in our society, being thrown under the bus by the women. And it's not a local issue at a council; it's a national issue. We all know that, and we all know why that. And who was there to the CPS at the time? Well, we all know who that was. Now our Prime Minister. But they're all in on it. You know, there's the police, the judiciary, the council, so they're all got to cover each other's backs. So how are we ever going to crack that nut?
It is a deep moral stain on our society as a result of it. And it's a deep moral stain for people who stand back and do nothing. Now's the time to call it out. Now's the time to shine a spotlight on it and to work out who's not saying what they should be saying.
And should there be arrests for all those people that covered it up?
There should absolutely be. I always say sunlight is the best disinfectant. We need to look at this. Why has this happened to make sure it never happens again? And I can tell you one reason why is people are scared. They're scared about what we talked about earlier, about the labels. They don't want to be called Islamophobic, or they don't want to be called racist and so on and so forth. It's abhorrent, and we need to address it.
But does racism mean anything anymore? You mean you could paper the walls with these allegations?
Well, the problem is it devalues when there's real racism.
It's not really racism. It's a religion. It's a specific
This is the point. It's like, absolutely, we shouldn't discriminate against anybody on that sort of basis. That is wrong and should be called out. It has gone the other way now that people are so scared of that label that they're not doing what they should be doing.
So this, I mean, people commonly now spell racist WRAYCIST, racist, which is the kind of, I just don't agree with what you're saying version of it. I mean, to me, look, I think that the whole racism tag was intended to stop people complaining about what was going on. Now I don't give a toss. You could paper my house with signs calling me racist.
And that's the reality. It's so easy. And the same way people say anti-Semitic or so on and so forth. There are some abhorrent things which have happened, but you have to have a forum where you can talk about certain things. And not everybody's right if they come from a particular religion.
By the way, the producer saying that I should make clear that I don't want people to paper my house with the word racist. You wouldn't get through the electric gates. So
the Rottweilers, absolutely.
Yeah, no, we are challenging. No, we are challenging them. We are challenging them. You try and come near my house, right? A, it's down a private road.
Oh,
B,
is it?
It's got electric gates. C, it's got reinforced door. D, I've got countermeasures. Just in case anyone attacks.
So it's like mass immigration. They say, "Oh, you're racist," but I haven't said anything about race. It could be white, anyone.
It is the biggest issue of our time around the world, and this is why the right is rising in so many different territories at the moment, because people are so scared, and they're so scared about what's happening, and people not calling it out. It's like a pressure cooker. The more you're not allowed to talk about things, the more you're going to get that uprising.
Well, they've said we want a mass immigration down the last 25 years, and all the people have gone, "Yeah, Cameron, yeah, we'll get it down," and they just lied blatantly.
Yeah, absolutely. And we want a fair system. I always say treat people with respect. I absolutely find discrimination abhorrent, but what happens, it devalues when you're lobbing these words around, wallpapering Andre's walls, whatever, on that sort of... It devalues. So in the same way about sexist and so on and so forth, it devalues women's rights if you just say everybody's sexist, or you do that sort of side, or anti
But it all starts at the UN, didn't it? With all these sorts of ludicrous African communist parties standing up going, "You're a racist, you're a sexist, you're..." Well, not homophobe, they're not that bothered about that. But and that's where it all started.
There should be an offence, and this is where the law could be tightened up. There should be an offence for people to call out somebody as a racist or anti-Islamic or whatever it is.
Is it legal to call someone racist?
And if you're on that sort of basis. But, well, firstly, it is defamatory. You work on that sort of thing, and people go through the course.
But defamation doesn't exist. Right, I know you think it does. I know you think it does.
All the defamation lawyers out there saying you're so wrong.
But if I defame you now,
yes,
you can.
I wouldn't recommend it. Otherwise, your wallpaper house will belong to me.
You can sue me if you have £500,000.
Yes, which I do.
No problem.
But that's the reality.
That's the problem. I always say that's the J. Bright cartoon from the 18th century with litigation written on a cow, and the plaintiff is pulling the horns, and the defendant pulling the tail, and the lawyers milking it, because the lawyers are the ones who benefit.
So look,
and that's the problem.
If you think you can't defame your neighbour, you're very wrong, because they can't afford to sue you. Now, my support, my view is you should be able to sue people for defamation in the small claims court.
Yeah, well, and I think what we need to do is a person's name is one of the most valuable assets, which is why the whole defamation law was set up in the first place. But we also need the right to call things out. But
the big problem is, if you have a press complaints commission, sorry, what's it called? Independent Press Standards Organisation, who, by the way, literally tweeted me once saying, "We're not the same organisation as the Press Conduct Authority," or whatever it was called, Press Complaints Commission. Why are you lying about us? And I gave them their company number. They literally were the same organisation. But if you've got Ipso, which is a farce, and you've got the defamation, which you don't have access to, all you've actually done, I would suggest to you, is to suggest to people that stuff that is said about them that's defamatory, that they can't take action about, but they've consented to say is true.
I often say this, is that actually what we need to do is, as a society, to call it out. And so often, it happens behind people's backs, so often. People say bad things about people, and they get to hear about it.
My point is, the system has been designed to give the appearance that there is recourse to justice if you are defamed. There is not.
No, and you're right, it's a financial threshold, and the way that the law's working at the moment, litigation in particular, is to encourage people to settle. Why I say about it's a society issue is, like, if you're bringing up a child, it's a whole village. That's what you used to say. A whole village is responsible for that. I think the whole community is responsible for making sure we comply with laws, make sure we treat people with respect, and that's what we need to look at. Call it out. People are saying rubbishy things to people all of the time. Some of it is defamatory, but we need to call it out.
But also, you know, when people tweet me going, "Racist, disgusting, racist, homophobic,"
I'm sorry, I will stop.
Do you know what I do?
Yes.
Not read it. I mean, I just think
you must have exactly how on earth. No, but you're right.
But yeah, okay. So you're right. I do read it. How would I know? But I don't take it.
See, we've already caught him out. He wouldn't last long in court.
Members of the jury. I give you witness A. No, the reality is this, and it's human nature. You might get 99 brilliant reviews, but one person says something rotten about you.
The proportion is much closer than
that. That's what you focus on. But we should stop worrying about that sort of stuff. It's so easy to say, "I've got thick skin, and stuff." It hurts people.
does it?
That's why they do it. It does hurt people, and that's why they do it. And people
Prince Harold.
and they get very depressed about that sort of stuff. Absolutely.
Henry.
But we need to, the 2025, start of a new year, what we should do as a society is call it out, because that's the best way of doing it. The law is too expensive.
But why not I just make a list of anti-racism activists and just call them all something...
Racists.
They're racist.
They are the racists.
Actually, why don't I just say right now, hope not hate a racist?
There you go. Well, you just said it. So I think the reality, and what we need to do is call out... The other thing to do is to call out the behaviour rather than the person. So you can correct behaviour. I do believe, and we've had this conversation before, I do believe there could be good, and you don't quote examples, but there could be good. There should be good sides to virtually everybody. I say virtually everybody. What you need to look at is call it... I know, I don't...
But the big danger...
Call out the behaviour.
The big danger is it's the boy who cried wolf. If you call everyone a racist, then genuine racists will get away with it.
And that's my point. It devalues what's a really
the real racists
cause.
get away with it. Yeah.
I believe, very clear on this, I believe in a meritocracy. Justice should be blind. The NHS should be blind. Everything should be blind.
For a minute.
Make sure that happens.
Okay, we're going to be back with the press preview just in a couple of moments. 0344 499 1000.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
This is the press preview with Andre Walker, Asher Gould and Andrew Eborn. And Asher.
Right, let's do the papers, and let's start with the Daily Mail.
Yeah.
Starmer guilty as anyone over the grooming gangs, and this is a former detective who blasts PM as calls for Oldham inquiry grow. Keir Starmer is as guilty as anyone over failures to tackle grooming gangs, a former detective claimed last night as pressure mounted on the government to deliver a public inquiry into the scandal. Whistleblower Maggie Oliver, isn't she Dame Maggie Oliver, said she had no faith in the Prime Minister's desire to get the truth. Miss Oliver, who helped expose the failure to tackle paedophile gangs in Rochdale, intervened after Labour bloc calls for a public inquiry into rape and sexual abuse by gangs into neighbouring Oldham. And why have they blocked it? Well, probably because it's not a local issue. It's now a national scandal. It's as big as Hillsborough and Grenfell and all those others. And there should be... And the Uni Party, you know, that the Kemi Badenoch saying we don't need this because they're also going to be caught out, aren't they? There's so much of a cover-up.
It is
all
horrendous.
The agencies.
It's a deep moral stain, and that's what we need to do. And
but it's blowing up now, isn't it?
But that's what's going to happen. It's great that the media will have these headlines turning around and say, well, who didn't do what they were supposed to do during this time? We can have a look at that. But most important, make sure the lessons are learned, make sure that the relevant people are brought to task as appropriate.
But this has been led by not this media, it's catching on after, but it's on social media. We're now seeing these are the people that are releasing it all, and they're following up. It is extraordinary,
and what's happened is, say, Elon Musk has shone a spotlight on it, saying it's absolutely scandalous. He's saying that Jess Phillips should be thrown in prison, is what he was saying. But they don't
trust the legacy media. Will it start to be trusted? I think
we're talking about it, and what I love about it is that you're turning around. In fairness, I always say, look, the media shouldn't be silenced. We're never silenced.
We're different here, aren't we? And there's one other channel, but the rest of them are all sort of covering up.
People online, online is the new front line.
We are also the mainstream media. I mean, we are sat on the 17th floor of the News UK building.
Yeah, but the vast majority of all the others
and
do.
This is the thing, and so often, as you know, I go on more platforms than Paddington, and they always, mainstream media, legacy media, as opposed to this. The reality, we are the media. We have a voice. We turn round and we say what we want to say without having.
Yeah, well, we do. But you go to the BBC, you can't. ITV, Channel 4, you've got to follow the party line.
So without fear or favour, we will call it out. And we'll continue.
When they say the reality is when they say mainstream media, what they mean is the BBC, ITV, and Sky.
Well, if you look at mainstream now, online is the new front line.
Well, no,
but they'll try and control it.
I understand that, but the BBC are desperate to hide this grooming gang scandal.
Well, are they? I think somebody from the BBC should turn around. The reality is, a spotlight has not been shone.
Where's the panorama about it? Where's the hour-long panorama?
Well, there may well be one, and I'm sure
there needs to be a Mr. Bates post office moment.
And isn't that interesting that the media? We should praise the media occasionally. I'm always saying, look, let's look at the media without without the media doing that, and same with the blood scandal, and it was a scandal, work on that basis, until the media got involved and shone the spotlight, it was ignored. We will continue doing that in the media, and the biggest satisfaction is holding people's feet to the fire when others are not doing it.
And people need to read about the act, because you hear, working class girls, 1,000 in it. You don't really. You need to read the detail from court cases, and then it really focuses your mind. You think, how the hell has this gone on?
Yeah,
torture, rape, some guy devices used. I can't even explain.
Some guy used a broken bottle on a girl and then prayed to Allah.
Well, another used a pump, and I'm not going to say what they did with it, but this girl, she was underage and gang raped. Basically, they branded people.
It's horrendous, and it is available there. It is harrowing reading. And what happens? I think what happens is we're so used to death and destruction in the media and numbers. As soon as you personalise it, as soon as you personify these horrendous acts, that's when people suddenly wake up. Britain is waking up. We're now aware of it.
It's the new woke.
And everybody and the great British public will get behind this campaign to make sure we get to the truth.
Neo-wokery. Anyway, my last phone call, this is a showbiz exclusive on the Mail, my last phone call with terrified Caroline Flack by lawyer who says she could have been saved. I mean, they sort of threw her under the bus, didn't they? But it's a very sad story.
It is
Did
very
you ever
sad.
meet her? I don't
I met her in some studios somewhere, because you do
she
that.
She seemed a lovely woman.
Everybody's lovely. Everybody's got issues. If you tickle me, do I not laugh? If you prick me, do I not bleed? Everybody's the same. And what people forget is people in the public eye, they have all sorts of demons as well. And sometimes
most of them are nutters, if you're being honest.
But I get
they are mostly
but
nutters.
It's a fickle industry, and I feel very sorry for people in the public eye. We spoke about this
and
last time.
You're in focus all the time.
They're in the public eye at one moment, and you're thrown out the other.
No, I tell you what, I never knew how itchy my bum was until I started going on TV. Because if you're out and about and you think, I just need to scratch my bum, you think, I can't do that because everyone knows who I am, right?
Yeah, you've had that cream now, you don't have that problem anymore, do you?
This is great.
Oh, you've got to... Right, admit it. There's stuff that you think, I would just pick my nose now, except for the fact I'm on the telly.
Well,
you must have that, Asher.
Well, I don't pick my nose,
No,
until I get off the telly.
Now he's famous, gets somebody else to pick it for him.
Yeah, I do.
No, I'm sorry, but you're out and about, you're on the train, or you're walking around the town and you think...
Yes.
You know...
I'll let rip.
I'll tell you what, send in those photos. The prize for the first photo we get of Andre, it's going to be good.
Yeah, someone followed him on the train.
Did they?
Yeah,
I'll tell you what my mate did once.
Yes.
My mate said that he was a member of Parliament, and do you remember that song, Love My Life as a Dickhead?
Of course.
All my friends are dickheads. And he said he was singing that in the vestibule on his headphones, and then he farted very loudly, and he turned round and 3 of his constituents were stood behind him. It was like, this is dreadful.
I like it, yes, all the stuff.
The Daily Telegraph.
Yes.
Fast track NHS.
Yeah, we were talking about that. Scandal about that. Everybody should be treated equally.
I think, in fact, you should go ahead. If you're a taxpayer, maybe there's a call for that. If you pay...
Well, then you pay privately. And the reality, it should be based on everybody should be entitled to free healthcare. We're paying for it other ways. Yeah. And those who can afford it pay a bit more because of taxes and so on and so forth. But you look at other countries where the first thing they do in America is pat you down to make sure you've got a credit card. That's the reality. We never want to have that.
That's not private healthcare. No, that's what people think.
People think it's free healthcare. It's not. It's paid for. You need to look at the economics of it. But it should be free to everybody. There should be no discrimination.
The problem with our system is that you're there like Oliver Twist going, please, can I have some healthcare, please?
But also, we need to praise them. The other thing...
Should we praise the NHS? It's dreadful.
When they do the right things, absolutely.
When do they do the right things? I mean, you know what? Most hospitals were built 50 years ago. They're yet to clean
them. People are dying in the corridor. They're even dying in the ambulances before they get in the corridor. Just waiting in an ambulance.
And they're looking after James well brilliantly. Yeah,
but that's because they know who he is, you know. And he goes, you know who I am.
But it's important that we also praise that we can focus on the criticism. And this is where my other pet subject, AI, is really helping. It's going to revolutionise the healthcare system in all sorts of ways. It's finding solutions to diseases. There's been seismic changes for that. Yes. It can also make sure there's efficient... a number of ways.
It can detect, can't it, things? It can detect things. Like, I think, you know, where blokes get in there, what's it called? Up your... You know,
yes.
There's a much quicker way now. And also pancreatic cancer. There's now an AI thing that can detect it much quicker than, and that's one you need to detect.
So what is brilliant at doing, artificial intelligence, is disseminating and assimilating all sorts of information and processing that, looking for patterns at a speed that doesn't work for humans.
It can look at blood early before we could see through a microscope.
And so there's an organisation I work with called Science for Soul, and you're working on that sort of principle where they want to share information.
Is that your soul or our soul?
You're back to that picture again, isn't it? The reality is this: we need to share information, but you need to make sure that confidentiality is key. But share learning around the world. If every doctor's office could share that information, they can get prevention is much better than cure. That's what we need to look at. The other way that it can do is not just about curing diseases, but also about efficiency. There are horrendous inefficiencies in places like the NHS and so on and so forth. We need to look at that sort of side. But also there are doctors and nurses and those working in the profession who work incredibly hard, who will be destroyed every time we turn around and just criticise the NHS. It can't be...
God, I hate that.
This is how to get away with it. We're all out there banging our pans, bang the pan.
It's not a
sacred cow.
It's not a blanket criticism. Shine a spotlight on the things which are wrong, but praise the things that are right.
The first thing Keir Starmer always says is, don't say that, it might upset the hard-working NHS workers. I don't care, they get paid.
No.
I mean, if you want to call me an idiot on Twitter, do it, right? But if I think, look, the NHS is a filthy dump with the worst survival rates in virtually every category of anywhere in the Western world. I don't care if people are offended.
But is it the doctor's? It's not always the doctor's fault. So
I agree with that.
So that's my point.
But you hear all this, but then you hear all the time old people were left with dehydrated just because the jug of water they couldn't reach.
So let me be really clear on this. Our criticism of those instances has more resonance as long as we praise the good bits as well.
All right, about that.
And that's what
about this example in St George's Hospital, Tooting, where a guy was so thirsty he phoned 999 to ask the police to come and bring him a glass of water. The nurses turned the police away and he died of thirst.
And absolutely, we should call out that instance.
I mean, that is dreadful.
But then it will just keep happening and happening.
Of course it's dreadful. But you're right, we need to call out all those instances.
Take so long.
And you're absolutely right. And we need to look at, as I say, all the bad things, look at those. But it's not a blanket thing. No. You're calling particular things. And that's how you get solutions. Because otherwise you just demoralise the good ones as opposed to...
But they are demoralised. I think that's affected a lot of medics. They see us as it doesn't matter.
That they work, the stuff that they have to do, it's a horrendous
but you do see the odd caring one. You think, well, we need more of those.
And there's some great caring ones, and a call out to them. I don't think we should have that blanket.
Do you know, I had a friend of mine who broke his finger, broke his thumb in, I forget where it was, it might have been Southampton or something like that. And we went to A&E, and do you know what I did? I said, listen, we will get in and out of here relatively quickly. What I did was I made a list of the personal descriptions of all the medics and timed how long they were grafting and how long they were walking around for. I went, right, blue one, she was only in there 40 seconds. Right, how long? 3 minutes. Look, she's just gone over there for a walk. Quick cup of tea. I'll tell you what, they had us in and out in no time.
I'm not surprised.
My advice in A&E is time the doctors and nurses, see how long they're actually working for, and publicly announce it to the other patients. That will get you in and out.
Very good.
They'll get you in and out, no problem.
And my advice for anybody is treat people with respect to the extent, and because you will get the best out of people.
No, because if you time them, Andrew.
Well, that's right. Well, it's either the stick or the carrot. You're looking at both and working on that sort of basis. And I do think sometimes we just do that blanket condemnation as opposed to pick out the good ones.
Look at the cancer rates. We are rubbish.
Absolutely. We need to look at that sort of side and say this is not good enough.
I mean, the NHS is dreadful, and now we're prioritising asylum seekers and illegal migrants.
And we spoke about that. And you look at the 1 million cancer cases which are missed during COVID lockdowns. All of these things, we need to talk about it, but it has more power if we also couple that with praising the good stuff.
Also, can I just say, front page, the French are now drinking more beer than wine.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh my God,
I know, for the first time ever. They've admitted that. And they probably, and worse than that, it's probably Belgium ones as well.
Oh, that's good stuff.
The Belgian beer is the good stuff.
They're drinking, on average, I think I can just about see 26.5 litres of beer per year, but only 26 litres of wine.
There you go.
But that is because their population's changing into beer drinkers. PM and Trump braced for free speech.
About beer.
What else?
I own 2 breweries.
That do you? Oh, good for you.
Well, I'm a shareholder in 2 breweries.
Oh, it's good. What are they called?
Disruption and Windsor and Eton.
Are they good stuff? Did you get a discount then on the crates?
Yeah, I do actually.
And it's local as well.
We should bring that in. We should do a sample.
My favourite drink is the Russian Imperial Stout from the Windsor and Eton Brewery, but it's 40 quid a litre.
Is it
40 quid? Why is it so expensive?
Because it was made in like 2012 or something.
We went to that pub round the corner which played about that, didn't I?
You'll be out of date then.
It was on this menu. It was like one of the most expensive beers we've ever had.
Yeah, do you remember that pub? And they said the next time I came back, they went, "I'm sorry, you can't sit inside if you're drinking. It's bloody £10 a pint."
No, I think we probably own the place by now.
That's the normal price in London now, isn't it? £8.
Outrageous, isn't it? But it is an interesting report. I always quiz about these sort of statistics, lies, damn lies and statistics. Who do they ask? You know, I bet the French would never admit to drinking more beer than wine.
Do you trust that?
So we drink more coffee than tea.
Yeah, and that's because reports keep on changing about health benefits and so on and so forth.
But coffee was the first drink before tea. The coffee houses were here. There was no tea. It was, what's the name? William of Orange.
Yes, orange barley water.
Orange barley. It was all coffee first, and then tea came. I
had a friend who worked for a well-known Anglo-Dutch firm.
Yes.
Let's not say which one, although I think we can probably guess. And he decided that he was going to have a party to celebrate William of Orange becoming the full and undisputed King of England with a Battle of the Boyne party. Right?
Wow.
And he contacted the Dutch, and the Dutch, not knowing anything about this, said, "This is brilliant." So he said what they'd do is they'd get their HQ, festoon it in orange, and they'd have a big party on the 12th. And it's fair to say it got back to the UK management, who's pointed out to the Dutch that they'd been had, and this was not going to go down as well, perhaps, as they thought.
It is extraordinary, isn't it?
Although it's fair to say, I think some of the customers in Northern Ireland would have been quite quick.
I think some of them certainly would. I think that's absolutely right.
OK, I'll tell you what, let's not...
breaking. A little one. Rashford missing from with illness. I think he wants to leave Man United. Man United could go down this year, and in other sports...
Isn't that extraordinary?
I know. A 17-year-old...
Yes.
Well, they're 16th at the moment, and they're losing the last 4 or 5... But in other news, a 17-year-old player won the darts. Lex Luthor is the new darts champion. He won at Ali Pali. Lex Luthor. We'll be back in a couple of minutes with more.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
This is the press preview with Andre Walker, Asher Gould and Andrew Eborn. I guess we'll go straight on to the weekend.
Is the correct answer. And Starmer faces a growing threat from reform over migration, poll reveals.
Yes.
Major survey suggests Prime Minister will lose significant support to Farage's Reform UK unless Labour can target voters concerned. Pollsters who accurately predicted 2024 election now claim reform switchers could even cost Labour more than 100 seats, with NHS crisis also triggering a need. There was a defection, wasn't there, today?
Yeah, there was indeed. And I listened to Nigel's speech just before coming here, and they brought him on the stage, and yes, there's another one.
He was the 150,000 exact member.
Yeah. Well, we did that little thing, and he also mentioned about Kemi and the accusation of fraud, and say that he's now going to target, he's going to do a little photo opportunity with all the people in her constituency who will come along and say they're all reform things. He's not going to sue her. He said he's not going to sue her now. It's one thing that I raised on the last time we spoke about.
I think he should.
Well, it's about rising above it. He's not going to rise. He's not going to let it drop because it's very easy to prove.
But also he wants to keep her in power because if she goes, they'll get generic.
Well, he says he's going to really push up the pressure to take away her seat, and he's going to do a photo opportunity. That's what he was saying in his speech. But he says he's not going to sue her because in defamation you have to prove that you've lost stuff, and as a result of her saying these things, actually the
cost. Yes, that's actually be a cost.
Although that's a cop out, isn't it? Because if a reasonable person believes, but would think less of him for being a fraudster. Yeah. Then it is defamatory.
And I made that very point on the show when we talked about that. It's an allegation of fraud. An allegation of fraud is defamatory if it brings you down the eyes of right-thinking people. The defence is if it's true. But it's so easy to prove. And they offer to get one of the top 4 firms, go in and show us other bits and pieces. But also, what does it mean? And we're talking about the brilliant audience we have at home. What does it mean to be a member? It's not like a subscription to Netflix. Does it mean that you can pick the leader? Does it mean you can have an influence on policy? Or does it mean mean I'm giving you my 10 quid or whatever.
It's a very small amount compared to the electorate.
But the problem is good point. But see, you could argue it only has 9 members.
Yeah.
But the category of membership she was talking about, she was talking very specifically that the ticker wasn't linked to the associate membership.
Did it. I held it up on air and we kept on because it was like millions.
And it's embarrassing for her because, you know, she's an engineer meant to be up with these sort of things, and it's embarrassing.
It was a bit silly saying that, and Nigel wasn't digitally aware and that sort of stuff.
And he's got 5 million followers.
Exactly, and so it was a silly way of doing politics. We need to get politics where you're focusing on the real issue.
It is extraordinary, this ticker.
It is.
So I made a video before about them having 166,000 members, and I probably filmed that at 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
And it's now on 168,000.
Exactly. And by the end of this programme, we can get it to 3 million.
Well, I think, and there's a video on my YouTube channel, which is...
do you have a YouTube channel?
www.youtube.com/Andre Walker. No!
And Eborn, OctopusTV, go to that as well.
Lest we forget the Errol Musk thing.
Errol Musk.
Errol Musk is on it.
But I was talking about the fact that I believe at this rate, Reform will take over the Labour Party in terms of membership.
The reality is this: they've got to get together at some stage because all it's doing is fragmenting the vote.
Yeah,
and what's going to happen? We're a long way off an election. I know we've got the debate in Parliament about should there be another general election,
but we don't really want one, do we?
Well, we won't have one. They won't. Sure. The reality is they're going to debate it in Parliament. They didn't have to, but the poll went to 3 million to just about.
They're not even doing it in the chamber. It's going to be one in the side room.
But the reality is, and it's interesting because Errol Musk, he was talking about this sort of side, and he thinks that Starmer's out by February. What's going to be interesting is politicians, they're always interested about basically getting re-elected. Politicians are in the business of getting re-elected. If they think the country's turning against Starmer, they could very well turn against.
Well, 20 councillors resigned around near Nottinghamshire because they said this isn't. They took the fuel off the pensions.
And the rhetoric and the more things that we have, these sort of headlines like "There we go, Starmer growing threat from reform," that's going to get people worried about their own position. And you must remember the statistics were not that good for Labour when they won the election. No. They talk about a landslide. It wasn't. They didn't get much more of the votes than they did the previous election.
1 in 5 voted for him of the electorate. The big freeze, guess what? It's going to snow. Well, we all know that. That's what happens.
Stonehenge. There was a lovely picture of Stonehenge.
Also, on the front page is Alan Titchmarsh. That man has laughed at King Charles's jokes for about 30 years and finally got an honour, didn't he?
He should. Fantastic. What I also liked about
come on, Your Majesty, make another joke for me to laugh.
Do you remember,
Your Majesty,
do you remember
please?
when King Prince Charles talked about, Nicholas Witch, and goes, oh, that ginger creepy...
Oh, he did? They were, I hate that man.
He goes, I hate him.
He was on the ski slope. What I love as well is the picture of Stonehenge with the snow. That's with the snow. There you go. On the front page of the Telegraph.
It's all cordoned off now. You can't get in there unless you pay 20
Now they've given Alan Titchmarsh an honour in the New Year's Honours. It's time for Gary Barlow, isn't it? Because if he sings another song in order to get, can you please give me a night haunt?
And what about poor old David Beckham? You know, rise to David, and poor old Chuck Thomas, only an OBE. You've got to work on that sort of basis. It's always I
got told that. Oh God, this is a bit difficult, but I got told that Her Majesty the Queen put David Beckham on the knighthood list personally, and then there was all sorts of things with Rebecca Lewis, and she then had to take him off.
There was something with the tax, wasn't there? You know, when a lot of celebrities had little things.
So the way that it works...
The tax thing, by the way, is grossly unfair to him, because he declares his UK earnings in the UK.
I think if anybody has been a fantastic ambassador for the UK, David Beckham, a rise to David Beckham, we should do this. What I loved is coming on the show over Christmas, we had... You were Lord Ash of Gould.
I was, the Monster Raving Loony Party, along with Debbie McGee and Rick Wakeman.
And I loved it. And can I say, it was a delight coming on with Nadine and James and doing the Christmas special with them. And it did. It felt when we did Andrew Eborn's Fake or Fact, we had you.
It was brilliant, wasn't it? Yeah.
It was great fun and a real lovely energy.
Why did you get the honour from the...
I don't know. I mean, there's big committees and a lot of very important people meet. And
I got British Media's Curry Eater of the Year.
Oh, did you?
I did.
I took you for that curry.
You love an award,
we had a great curry. I won't tell anybody where it is because you won't get a seat again.
Yeah, that's a good place.
Wasn't that brilliant? I know, it's a very good. I love that. I never recovered for about like a week afterwards, but it was fantastic at the time. It was glorious.
It's fair to say that it's an Indian working class calf.
I think I was there in my suit.
Oh, there's my picture on the top left.
Have we got it? There we are. Look, there we are. I'm glad I mentioned
it. There it is. Lord Ash of Gould.
Lord Roy Wood. We had Lord Pot.
Minister of Talking talking TVs.
Isn't that good?
Yeah,
and they had the guy in here who's an Agent Chivers, I think his name is.
Chinners.
That's an agent. And he's a cartoonist. Very good.
He's brilliant.
Who's Lord Pothole?
He actually did. The guy fixed the potholes in the country.
So they basically come up with the alternative.
Is that Uber, whatever his name is?
Yeah, so he's the guy who's been shining a spotlight on potholes and that sort of stuff. Good for him.
That won't fix them, just shining the spotlight. You've got to put the stuff in as well.
Well, it'll go in the hole.
They will.
Well, you never know. Nadine Dorris, I sometimes wonder whether I've entirely lost the plot. Yeah, she is.
Yes, she has. She's a total crank.
Ages ago,
She's a total crank. She began phoning around the newspapers saying that I was running Robert Jenrick's campaign. She's off her tits. Yeah. She is a loony. She is genuinely a loony.
Well, we knew the person doing it, though, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
The Times.
Yes.
Starmer in Trump sights. This is interesting. PM battling series of vocal attacks from US President-elect and Elon Musk. It's basically about freedom of speech, and America can't believe what's going on.
No, I mean, it is outrageous. And there's that lovely picture again of Stonehenge on the Times as well. There you go. Fantastic stuff.
Also, can I just ask you this question?
Yes.
Are you a middle-aged, middle-class man? Yes. Have you got an air fryer? Yes.
Have you got one?
Yeah.
I haven't got one.
Oh, the Diet Air Fryer book. 500 calories. That's in the Times on Saturday.
500 calories.
24.
Do you like the air fryers? Have you got one?
I'm obsessed.
It's good for chips, sausages. A steak actually does well in it.
Do you know the best stuff? Do you know the best thing with an air fryer is
Mars bars.
Do you remember?
You can refry chips from the chippy.
Do you know how KFC now is awful? And it used to be good. Get your KFC, stick it in your air fryer.
Do you add your own herbs and
does make it really good?
Yeah.
No, it's still crap. Just
so how do they work then?
It's a small oven.
What's the principle behind it?
It's a small oven.
Just a small oven.
That blows air, so it's sort of a bit quicker.
But you're not doing stuff in oil, so it makes it look healthier.
Yeah. So it's instead called. So the reason it's called an air fryer is because it's such a small oven and it blows out the heat, it does do the outside more quickly than it does the inside.
It makes it we sound like QVC, don't we?
No, say you got a pasty.
Get on now.
So you got a pasty, it takes 25 minutes in the oven, it'll take 12 to 15 minutes.
So that's very good, isn't it? They do this combo micro, we've got one of those, where you can do like a baked potato, and it's not just a microwave, but they do like an ovenly bit, and they do something funny to it, and it comes out in like a nanosecond, it's glorious.
And you can do it on your phone, you know, Bluetooth.
What, a thing?
Do me air fryer on the phone.
You can do a jacket potato. Really?
Because I just sit at home and you want to put it on to preheat it for a minute. I just put it on my phone.
Is there somebody at home now? Can we get the
I could probably put it on now.
Oh, put it on. Put
your air fryer on now.
Put your air fryer. Right, this is a moment. Is there somebody at home now? Who's at home at the moment?
Well, no. So here we go.
What?
I'll put it on anyway. It'll be nice and hot when I get back.
What are you cooking there?
Start cooking. Well, you can pick whatever. It's got all the recipes on there.
But if you've got nothing in the air fryer,
I just go start cooking and then start and... Anyway, we'll be back after this.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Okay, this is the James Whale Show with Andre Walker in for James Whale featuring...
starring.
Featuring.
Featuring.
Well, everyone knows it's starring.
Featuring.
Starring.
Featuring.
Yeah, well, you can feature. I could star, couldn't I?
There you go, starring Andrew Eborn.
Thank you.
Oh, I remember it's a royal knockout. You won't remember that, but
we remember
Prince Edward.
Edward, he was so upset with the press, wasn't he? When he went in there,
he walked out, didn't he?
They walked out. It was terrible. So, Samara, you don't think she's going to be the next Martha Stewart then?
Hey, Andrew. No, she's Town Store Martha Stewart. I'll tell you that much. She really believes that, and it's actually, it's quite a fall from grace because she originally, first of all, wanted privacy, and second of all, wanted to save the world.
Yes. And she did do that wonderful jam as well. You might remember that. Which was
she sent out 50 jars. But is this the...
Right, all right, Tamara Gill, thank you so much.
Great to see you, Tamara.
We will be back in a moment.
Tamara.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
If you had 4 stomachs, you'd belch a lot as well.
Well,
sorry, we're back.
You go to the Philippines to get
those talking about Cravendale milk there, which was slightly odd.
Well, Bill Gates wants to inject cows with a drug.
But you know that effectively octopi have 9 brains.
And they have 3 hearts.
That's why they're flipping clever, aren't they?
And also, an octopus... its mouth is also its anus.
Thank you very much. That's how they know how they speak so well.
That's why they're always talking crap.
Although, to be fair, I think what they actually do is they take stuff into the stomach, and any stuff that they don't want afterwards, they just vomit out.
They are glorious.
Owls do that.
They're phenomenal. But octopuses are brilliant, and they can get into the tiniest little spaces.
They're amazing,
Did you see My Pet Octopus? Did you see that wonderful documentary about this man who befriended this octopus, and he came to see it every day?
They're so clever, and they only live 3 or 4 years, and they become they're
amazing.
They're almost godlike.
So an octopus can get through anything that is 1 millimetre bigger than its eyeball.
Isn't that great? Isn't that wonderful?
Anyway, enough of all that. We are educational as well, but let's go to by the way, there's Mike Graham with his croissant. Oh no, it's not. It's not Dr. Dave Ball, but they do look the same in a certain light. Nice little earner. There we go. It's a 17-year-old projected to win £50 million a year. Well, to earn it. Lex Luthor is tipped to rake in £50 million. Right, so it's Luke Littler.
How is he 17? He looks about 50.
And his dad but he's always looked this age. He looks really old.
Where is he from? Is he north or south?
Warrington.
Well, Northerners, yeah, they do age quicker, don't they?
Not necessarily.
Shut up.
It's a hard life they have. And that's basically it. Free inside slimming well detailed.
Use the force, Luke. I love it.
Hang on. How does a dart player earn 50 million a year?
It's got so much more popular, and he's
50 million over his career.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Well, it depends how long the career, but also merchandising stuff. It's all about.
He's only 17. He's going to have a long career.
He's got great, and what I love is his celebration. He used to sort of have a doner kebab, didn't he, when he would prepare for the darts matches.
It's nice to see a young fat dart player coming through, because they started to get more athletic.
And he's bringing another generation.
I love that when they go, when you're watching the darts, they go, look at this fantastic athlete, and he's about 40 stone. Yeah. I absolutely love them. I always thought we should get darts into the Olympics.
Yes.
Because can you imagine all these like Tom Daly's turning up looking buff, and then Luke Littler, he's got his pint.
Well, it is basically archery and javelin mixed.
There's a real skill, and that's why you said that. And they brought Bullseye back as well.
I've got to be honest with you. Whatever way you look at it, it is purely only snobbery that puts javelin and archery in the Olympics and keeps darts out.
You're right, because there's probably more skill. There's more skill. But with a javelin, you just throw it, and it's all about distance. You're absolutely right. There is more skill in a dart. That's another campaign we'll start. Darts has got more skill than javelin.
But a definition of a sport, it's a non-sport if you don't have to change your shoes to do it.
Is that right? Yeah, but every year they can bring in, or every time they have the Olympics, you can bring in a special
I'll tell you what, the specialist sport we should have brought in the London 2012 Olympics.
Shove Halfpenny.
No. Yes. It should have been the take your cannon to bits and run round Edinburgh. Do you remember? What was that?
The Royal Tattoo.
That was superb.
I do feel sorry for the people up in Edinburgh who missed out this year because of the bad weather. Wasn't that sad about New Year's Eve?
Why did they cancel it? They were in a terror attack, I think.
I'll tell you what they did try and bring in. They tried to bring in, for the London 2012 Olympics, the Stratford Dash, which was you had to run from Dixon's to cash converters with a TV under your arm. And whoever got there first was the winner.
Right, the Daily Star. Daily Star.
We love the Star.
£2 free shot back at William Hill.
Yes.
And here is the headline: Secretary of State for the bleeding obvious.
Yes, it's going to be cold, is what they're saying as well.
Health Secretary Wes Streeting. It's going to be cold, and it's in January. Well, it would be. Health Secretary Wes Streeting, who represents the gits who stole OAP's winter heating allowance, says we should turn on the heating to stay warm.
It is a scandal.
It's a crass comment, actually, because when somebody asked him, what should you do about the winter fuel payment being cancelled, he said, make sure you turn your heating on. Well, I believe there's the problem.
Yeah, it's predicted to be -8 degrees centigrade in some places, snow and ice, and it's scandalous, and it's not a joke. It shouldn't be a joke.
No.
And he should not. People are freezing to death.
Well, 4,500 Labour project projected onto when the Tories threatened to take, or said if they... But so that's about 40 tonight will die, so thank the government
What about join Slimming World for free? Do you have a New Year's resolution?
Well, I liked Ollie coming on earlier. I got whatever he got taken off over Christmas. I think that was...
Are you wearing a corset as well?
You know what it's like. I'm half the man I used to be, actually, and you work on that sort of basis. But the reality about it is no good just chopping bits off you. It's about lifestyle, isn't it? It's like these Ozempic.
Yeah, so some people might not have been listening, but Ollie London has had yet another procedure.
Yes.
I mean,
a reversal one though.
But he's now had his body sculpted.
He has. Well, he's transracial, isn't he? That's what he wants to look like, this Korean Indian on that sort of basis. And lovely. He's had work done, has he?
Well, no. The way he had recently was that his.
But this new
Get out of it! Has he had work done? Has he had work done? I'll tell you what. His face on average is 6 months old.
I love it. It's got. He looks surprised. Well,
he looks surprised.
But now what he's had done, he had some. Anyway, enough of this blabber again. We've gone back into.
He had moves like Jabba.
That did it. But I like Ollie. He's a lovely guy.
I think you've sorted it out there, yeah. I'm doing that.
Are you going back to the papers? Go on,
back to the papers. And now some pearls of wisdom from the man charged with protecting... Well, that's what we saw.
Yeah,
Daily Express. It's a cop-out on social care reforms.
Terrible, isn't it?
Labour's social care reforms will take years and are a cop-out. Well, we know that.
They won't do the recommendations until 2028.
We'll all be dead by then
another
anyway.
3 years away. Activist Dennis Reed claimed that this amounted to a recipe for delay. Well, of course it does. You know, we need to shine, as what we were saying earlier, we need to get things sped up. AI can help with that. We can get more efficiencies. Let's get these reports. People say, oh, we're doing a report, we commissioned this. It takes far too long. We need to speed these things up and get it sorted now.
Yeah, but of course they're going to wait till the end of their term.
Can I make a comment about what's at the bottom of this, which is an advert for lower prices in supermarkets. On a serious note, I mean, I was amazed. Weren't all the supermarkets selling vegetables cheap this Christmas? Which I think was quite nice.
No, it was lovely. You can get carrots, big kilo of carrots for 8p. I got and Brussels sprouts. And what they are, they're lost leaders. Standard thing in retail, you want people through the door, I'll get some 8p carrots. Whilst I'm here, I'll pay 17 quid for a gammon joint.
Yeah, that's how they get you, isn't it? Yeah.
That's what they do.
But also, I will say one thing.
Yes.
I mean, who cares that this happens to be a Tesco's advert? People are really struggling with the prices in supermarkets at the moment, aren't they?
Well, the other thing people are, and there used to be a trustee of a food repurposing, sort of a charity.
What is a food repurposing?
No, basically, there's so much food which is wasted.
Yes.
And what it is, it's still good to be eaten.
Yes.
And we need to work out, but half the world is starving, but there's enough food to feed the world if you educate people about waste and excess.
But they want us to eat, I mean, the WEF want us to not have meat, so they'll all have meat, and we'll be eating insects. And this is by something like 2030.
And insects are very good for you. They are very good for you.
They are.
But we need to make sure.
Your teeth.
But people are turning around and saying, look, let's be more food aware so we don't throw so much away. But also stores are becoming aware of it. They do these things like Too Good To Go and do them.
I will tell you one thing. I've not got kids and whatever. I know mums will have a tendency to go, right, Monday we'll do this, Tuesday we'll do that one. You know what? I am one of the people who goes to the supermarket, throws everything in, and my bin is full at the end of the week.
Yeah, and that's the problem.
A lot of people do it.
And so people should be more aware of what they're throwing. You can save a huge amount of money. And there are a number of organisations, all of a sudden, these big retailers have now got it on board. There's an organisation called Too Good To Go. You can check on the app, where you can get food at a discounted rate. So rather than throwing it away, they can sort that out.
So Too Good To Go, at the end of the evening, say somebody like, say, Harvester will say, right, I've got 5 steak dinners. Do you want to buy them for £1 each?
It's something like,
and then everyone has a fight, don't they, at the back of the store?
But what we need to do is make people aware of it. So, firstly, it's making sure it just doesn't go for landfill. Secondly, people can work where you've got a heating or eating crisis. If you can look at these sort of things where we're not wasting stuff, but also you want to talk about eating healthily. It's not just about these massive diets and lopping bits off you. It's turning around and we can eat healthily. That's what we need to do.
And you can freeze. A lot of people don't realise you can freeze a lot of it. Cheese can be freezed. Some vegetables and fruits can be
freeze cheese.
Freeze cheese. And the farmers are going to be on. They're going to block. Apparently, they're going to get more like the French and the Gillette Jaunes, and they're going to block things. And so everyone gather your bog rolls.
There is one other thing that was on the front page of the Daily Daily Telegraph, and forgive me for going backwards on this, but I did mean to bring it before. The Netherlands has decided to publish all of its documents on Nazi collaborators, and there are 32 million pages of documents. Now, presumably many of these people are now dead. Good thing or bad thing?
Well, of course it's a good thing. I think you have to turn round. I think the more we can shine a spotlight on the atrocities of the past, the better. And people always say, they come out with these sort of trite phrases like, oh, lessons will be learned. Well, what lessons have been learned? And we need to turn around, shine that spotlight and make sure we do it quickly.
But Andrew, what if it was my grandfather? It's not. I'm not Dutch, and my granddad wasn't a Nazi. But but what if it's what if I was to say, well, hang on a second, this is only half the story, because you know the country had been occupied. The Dutch did try and fight off the Germans, and then people were forced into collaborating.
But there was more Jews killed there than Poland, proportionately.
But people potentially will be remembered in history for being vile racists when they were a subjugated people.
And you're absolutely right. As you know, that's what I do all the time, to play devil's advocate, where somebody needs to be there to put the other side. And that's what I hate about when people are not there to defend themselves. You just hear one side of a story. And like any courtroom...
The poor Nazis aren't there to defend themselves.
No, but Andre's point is...
I mean, Asher, my question to you, Asher, is really simple, because I think it's important for the purposes of history to have these documents, but then individuals will be besmirched because people will only half read them.
Well, I mean, you either collaborated or you didn't, and, you know, there does come a time when you've got to make a choice and you've got to be responsible. I mean, the Dutch policeman that arrested Anne Frank was a policeman right up until the 80s in Holland, you know. Is that right? And I think you've got to be take your responsibility. If you collaborate, you're following orders. Sorry, you're guilty.
It is absolutely abhorrent, and you're right to call it out. Andre's point is that they're not here to defend themselves and put maybe there's an argument against it or what.
But mind you, and I don't mean to be crass, neither is Anne Frank.
No, I get it.
I'm not making that as a crass comment.
Otto Frank was alive for many years.
There you go.
I remember on Blue Peter.
There you go. Thank you. Yeah. But the reality is exactly that. And I do think when things are abhorrent, it's also abhorrent if you're accused of something, a horrible crime, and you're not guilty. If you don't get a chance to be represented or to have your case put forward, that's equally abhorrent. No, and we always say everybody's assumed innocent until proven guilty. If you're just relying on one source, that's very, very dangerous.
It's amazing, isn't it? Because you do need all these documents. But what worries me is you see these things nowadays with like that stupid thing about Edward Colston, who was not a slave trader, and we went through all this whole thing. It was only at the end of the process of ripping down his statue I realised the bloke wasn't a slave trader, because people have half the information.
And history is ugly, and that's the reality. You shine a spotlight, but only on one chapter of it, and you don't put things in context.
There's more slavery now than there ever has been.
It is appalling. And what's going on at the moment? We go back to what we're saying. We here on Talk will continue shining a spotlight on the stories that need to be told today.
Well, anyway, for those people whose families did suffer in the Netherlands during the Second World War, I mean, this is an amazing project. As I say, 32 million pages have been digitalised, obviously in Dutch. But I mean, people will be able to search them.
Will they? Well, 32 million pages in Dutch.
It'll take decades before anything meaningful comes out.
This is a game where AI can help. You turn around, work on that sort of basis. You shine a spotlight on some examples. All I would say is put everything in context. Make sure, as you say, sometimes people's names might be wrong or whatever. You need to work out if it is right. If it is abhorrent, we'll call it out. If they've been wrongly accused, there's nothing worse, and work on that sort of basis. And it's much better, we always say in the law, that 99 guilty people get off than one innocent person gets convicted.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I really do think it's an interesting thing. I think I think the bigger thing is people who attempt to do history, in 10 minutes, going, I've spotted this name. And you end up with that stupidity, like the Edward Colston stupidity, where the bloke was a cloth trader and he got given this titular role as Deputy Governor of the Royal Africa Company, which had a division which traded slaves. He'd never seen a slave in his life. He'd never profited from a slave in his life. But of course, because people do this half-baked historical analysis.
And it's true. I always say about when people talk about judgments and sentences and judges being lenient, you get a little snapshot in the press of what might be the results of several weeks of evidence.
As an example, the judge who never said that a girl was too intelligent to go to prison. That was never said.
By the way, it's all about your calls in the next hour, and there's a number if you're on the radio, 0344 499 1000. Call in now. We're going to whip through them all. We've already got a few here, but, you know, we will.
And the Eborn's going. Are you going or staying?
It's past midnight, isn't it?
He's got to go and turn to a pumpkin.
Well, I might stay for a couple of minutes. I'd like to have one call. I'd like to speak to the psychic because I've got a prediction for the psychic. If they make a call now, I have a prediction coming up.
All right, Eborn is going to hang around at least for a couple of moments to get your calls in. Back in a sec.